Hello, hello, my beloved waking gods and goddesses. Welcome to Love, Truth, and Beauty. Maria West here, and this is episode 372 and my ninth installment of my video series, Conversations with Women. And I am so pleased today to have Caroline Reilly here with me as my very, very special guest, who is the Shadow Work Transformations mentor. And I just love your work. Welcome, Caroline. So happy that you're here.
Thank you. Thanks so much for inviting me. Because the day that you invited me, I already was thinking about you, which is really strange. So there was a
Ah,
synchronicity there already, and we can talk quite easily together. So looking forward to this.
awesome, awesome. And I'm so pleased that you're taking time. I know your little one is teething. I know what that's like. It can be very, very, very rough. And
Uh-huh.
at the same time, thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So let's talk shadow work, shall we?
Shall we?
It's
I
one of
think we
my
should.
favorite things. One of my favorite things, and especially for somebody who I love writing and I love getting into the sort of mechanisms of what it is that I'm afraid of, the things that bother me, the things that I ruminate over again and again and again, and bringing that piece that is internal onto the forefront through paper. So I'm a fan of journaling. I'm a fan of processing. And that has been really, really helpful in terms of the work that I do with survivors of trafficking, survivors of the most messed up human atrocities,
Oh,
because
wow.
this is the kind of stuff that where we really have to learn how to, through our own direct experience, learn what it is that works and doesn't work. And I'm finding that the shadow work is imperative in moving through trauma-based mind control, complex PTSD, and all that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I haven't worked with anyone who has suffered what you've just spoken about there. So I didn't know that you've been working with people that have been through that. But shadow work is the way that I think everyone needs to go. Everyone who has a spark, everyone who has a soul, anyone who wants to feel better or who wants to be more in their authentic, in self-expression. Anyone who hasn't had their needs met as a child,
Yeah.
anyone who's had problems with their relationships, which is probably most people, to be fair.
Yes.
So this will help most people. I mean, I did say about feeling better, but really and honestly, you don't feel better straight away. You really have to go down deep and start digging through the shit,
Yeah.
really, and to
Yeah.
find out what it was that created you. Because I mean, at the moment, I've got a program coming out on Saturday, and it's called In Alchemy, and I have a small group of people who are going to be there, and who are going to be doing their shadow work with me, and I'm really excited about that. First of all, because I know that I can help these people. I can know that I can take them because I've had like a one-to-one with each of them. So I know a bit about what they want, what they've been through, what experiences they're hoping to have in the future, what they want to heal.
Mm-hmm.
And the program that I've got goes through dissolving the false self, the anima and animus integration, although it won't be integrated initially because it takes some time, but I'm just going to be showing them how to do that. I've got a workbook which they can do it over years, but it's something that once
Beautiful.
you've read it, you can always go back into it. There's also going to be inner child work, looking at the mother and father wound, looking at how the childhood has shaped the person. Because if you imagine, we are all born without sin. We are all born perfect, beautiful babies. Imagine, sometimes when I go into London and if I see like a homeless person looking rough,
Mm.
I think that was once someone's beautiful baby,
Yes.
that was and so if you imagine that because we're disconnected from this idea that was once us, that once we were without sin and that we were perfect and we were I don't, untainted by the world, perhaps. But then you're born into situations, and it's like the world just gives you a couple of slaps, and then suddenly you're this, you know, you're the culmination of everything that you've ever been through.
Yes.
And most people, you know, especially in midlife, they're suffering. They're really suffering. And now I'm seeing this in my tarot card readings, because I do tarot. It's not like tarot isn't what sort of defines me. You know, it's one of many things that I do. But I'm finding that when I do tarot with people, they're coming, obviously, when people go for a tarot reading, there's usually some kind of problem that they want some clarification on. But most of these people do come back for Reiki with me, because I'm finding that there's so much emotional stress that they're under, that
Right.
Reiki is really, it's really good at kind of, I tell you what Reiki's good at, it's good at the moment with me for releasing emotions,
Yes.
because I've kind of found a way to use breath work with Reiki. And it could also be that the person is in a vulnerable position, they're lying down, and there's someone holding space for them.
Right.
And that alone can be kind of overwhelming, that you have somebody there for you
Yeah.
in your emotional, allowing you to be emotional. So anyway, yeah, shadow work is important. Carl Jung says that it's he never actually spoke about shadow work. He spoke about the shadow. We've kind of turned it into shadow work.
Yes.
And it's a real sort of buzzword at the moment, and the new agers have kind of got their hands on it, and they're flying with it. But
They're twisting
real,
it all around as well.
well, it's a moneymaker. It's a
Yeah.
moneymaker if it's, you know, if people know how to do their marketing, which I don't, then they can make a lot of money out of it.
Yeah.
But for true authentic healing, because I did go down the new age route initially, it doesn't work. Law of attraction, manifestation, all that shit does not work unless you get down to what made you who you are.
Exactly. It's a
Your dark,
mindset. It's a
that's
mindset reset. You have to think properly. And in order to
yeah.
think properly, you have to excavate all the things that get you to, gnash about in there. And I know that for me, the shadow work has really been applicable in that respect. And also going back to the Reiki,
Mhm,
I find as a very outstanding self-soothing tool
mhm.
to really get that nervous system regulated and
Yeah.
calm and at peace, to be able to deal with the sort of pushback that we get
Mm.
doing the shadow work and the integration that takes, as you say, it takes a while, and it's not pleasant because the shit sort of hits the fan and it gets all over the place. And you have to become friendly with the shit in many ways, I think.
You do, you have to, well, and in order to integrate it, you need to understand it, understand the roots of it, and then you need to accept it, and to some degree need to let go as well. And I think also this is where within the course, within the modules that I have, I'm going to be doing Reiki one-to-one with everyone at the beginning, and then at the end of the 8 weeks.
Yes.
Uh, I'm also going to be leaving the group. There's going to be a small group, a Facebook group. It's going to be open up until September, and so I'm going to be asking people to share their integration process on there. And then in September, I will be speaking to everyone individually just to see how they've integrated, because this is the first time I'm offering this. But I
Yeah.
first started writing it in 2020. But obviously there's lots of things happen, like having a baby at 45 and all the rest of it. So I've been kind of busy, but yeah, I've got lots to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And so with all the things that you have to do, what are some of the sort of challenges that you're finding in
Hmm.
like your own personal life and your own process? And then, hand holding, mentoring
Yeah.
the people that you mentor, because I find it, in the work that I do, that it is a heavy responsibility. I feel
Hmm.
responsible. I feel, the sort of moral obligation to do right by the people that I'm working with. Um, do you feel that same
Absolutely. It's a
kinship?
responsibility. I think that, well, I mean, some people get into it for the wrong reasons. If you're into it for the money, you could make money, I'm sure. But if your heart's in it, then it's all about, you know, I want to see progress with what happens for people. I
Mhm.
want to see that they're able to understand what their shadow is and to integrate some of it, and to work through their difficulties. And ultimately, I mean, everyone has got a slightly different story about what it is that they want to achieve. And so for some of them, it's about kind of maybe being able to have a relationship, and to kind of to get rid of all the barriers that they had, to do with relationships. And for some people, it's about their life purpose. There are lots of different reasons why, but I know, because I've spoken to them initially at the beginning, I want to then see that I'm able to, you know, that those people are able to meet their objectives by the end.
Mm.
And so at the moment, it's a bit of a testing ground. This year is a testing ground, and so next year won't be. But in terms of how I work with those people as well, is I'm just really careful about my own shadow, and I have to make sure that, you know, I've always kind of questioned, you know, like I've got this online group, how much of it is about my ego? You know, like there is, you know, with the likes and the hearts and the
Yes,
responses that you get, there is a bit of a, oh, you know, and I have to be very aware of how
yes.
that affects me. And so there's always this kind of self-reflection that's going on, and also making sure that I do what I can to ensure that there aren't too many sort of anima projections onto me, which I have had over
Mhm.
the years. And that's all to do with how I talk to people, and you know, how, you know, if I'm sort of flirtatious or anything like that, then it just kills everything, because that's
Yes.
not what I'm there for. I'm there to hold people's hand through difficult times. So it is all about that. But yeah, you have to be self-reflective. I'm sure you find that yourself.
Oh, absolutely. And I find that this is what I have found more and more recently, is that the similar conversations that I'm having
Hmm.
with, say, my very shadow selves, depending on what the category is, or that, how do you say, category,
Category. Yeah.
yes. Depending on what it is, that my clients and my students are having similar conversations to varying degrees. And I'm
Hmm.
finding that to be just so, like it seems to be a deepening into the heart when that
Hmm.
happens. And these common threads of our pain and our suffering. And it's almost like they get sort of vented, if you will, into this cauldron that becomes a sort of co-creative like vortex of healing. And I'm finding that there's a movement through really, really intensely painful nexus points that allows for like this unpacking, or this unmasking, if you will, of
Hmm.
just deeply concretized traumas and pain. So I'm finding that more and more. And sometimes I'm thinking, is this me? It's not me. It is really I think the collective unconscious that
Hmm.
is coming through, and just kind of tapping each one of us on the shoulder and going, hi, I'm here. And we're here together. And to be able to
Do
face
do you
that.
do yours in like groups? Do you have a group of people working together, or do you do one-to-one? How are
I'm
you
doing
working?
one-to-one. I did
Yeah.
groups for a very, very long time, and I'm
Hmm.
finding that that is really, really great. But for the really, really deep work, I'm finding that the one-on-one is
Hmm.
really serving
Okay.
to a greater degree the
Right.
process of like really uncovering the really bad ick.
Uh-huh.
We're like, there's a sort of repulsion that happens
Uh-huh.
when you start excavating certain things. Um, and I didn't know that was going to come about, because, I think for a way to describe it is I kind of bought into the sort of new age bullshit notion
Hmm.
of we're all in this together, and we're all, I think that's cool to a certain degree. And then afterwards, I think you do people a disservice, especially when certain people are getting sort of lost in the cracks because of our shame-based society, because there isn't a language a lot of the times for, what is this thing that makes our shoulders go up and makes us collapse, or make us become sort of zombified spectators in a group dynamic.
Mhm.
And so
I actually think that there's quite a few of us at the moment online who are sort of creating a language, and maybe even creating a bit of a wave. And I think we're at the very beginning of it. And I think that the more we sort of link in together, the stronger it becomes. There seems to be a kind of
beautiful, yes,
a group of people online who could really kind of do a lot of work together, I think, to show what healing really means, like real healing. And
yes,
I guess I do wonder sometimes, is it different for every person? Because for me, healing means, for me, to be not scared. And initially, straight, one of the biggest things is not to be scared of death. And I think
yes,
that's probably that's kind of like the pinnacle, I think, because I think ultimately all the other fears kind of are, kind of end up being there. And I think that for me, when I had my awakening, I died. I didn't really die, but I died in
yes,
some way. There was an ego death. There was a very prominent memory that I have of there was a part of me up on the ceiling, and it was the part of me that is my ego. I can only ever describe it like that. And it was away from me, and I just felt this disconnection, and it took me a lot of time, a lot of years to kind of get myself back to that. But once I'd had that experience, it's like and maybe as I'm getting older as well, I'm having more insights that I can't even give words to anymore. But it's like a knowing of my the fact that I'm infinite, I guess,
yes,
this isn't it.
yes,
And also another thing that I say to all of my clients is, we're not going to be here in 50 years' time. This is your chance. This is your call to live. If you've come for a reading or you've come for some healing, this is your call to live. Just take it and do the work, and make this life the best that it can be for yourself. Because the other thing about it is, at the moment we're living in such a society that just that gratifies the victim. And especially with our young people, and it's really quite
yes,
scary that they're all like, oh, I'm disabled, or I'm whatever I
yes.
am,
It's the
I'm gay.
over-identification with the victim and
Uh-huh.
weaponizing it so that you
Mm-hmm.
can blame all men, or you
Oh
can,
yeah.
blame this, that, and the other thing, or, become more concretized and polarized, to sort of fight. And then the matrix wins again, because it's more divide and conquer and more separation and all of that, and the sort of willful ignorance
Mm-hmm.
of getting to the core of the pain and why it is there, and making friends with that pain, and allowing the pain to be a teacher, a mentor.
Do you know, Mary, it might be the same for you, but I've come across quite a lot of, I guess I'd say, truthers, people who are interested in alternative research and
Yes,
like sort of truth, I guess, truth theory. There's a lot of different theories out
yes,
there, but those people for me have been the most angry, and I understand why.
yes,
And I guess that there were times that I felt angry, but never to such a degree. I mean, for me personally, and this is something that I always try to get out to those people, I don't know how much we can affect, how much we can affect the world. I kind of feel sorry for the people who don't see the world in the way that I do, because for me personally, I think I see the truth of what's happening. I
yes,
see that there is that we have social engineers, that they divide and conquer in so many different ways. that people are completely brainwashed when you go into a school, as I have done quite recently, and you listen to what the teachers are saying. It's just incredible to hear them so eloquently telling just talking shit, just talking absolute bullshit
Yeah.
about things that they read, that they think that they know.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'm not saying that I know better or more than them, but at least not to question some of the things which are so obviously lies. But this is the world that we live in, and I kind of feel like I don't know how to fight the system.
Hmm.
Like, and maybe I need to learn more, but I don't know how to fight
Yeah.
it. And
Yeah.
in a way, I kind of I struggle with it. I struggle with how
I
to.
hear exactly what you're saying, because
Hmm.
I was one of those people. And
Hmm.
I think over time, I'll be 65 this year. So for
Mm.
me, I have seen the shit show.
Hmm.
And, the shit show of the pandemic, all of that kind of stuff, and the whole truther community just up against that, and I used to be one of those people. I was one of those people for probably 2 decades, 20 years of my life, where I was hell bent on outing the traffickers, outing the thing, outing. And what happens is that you draw a lot of attention to yourself, bad attention to yourself. And I was essentially living the split of, the sort of warrior. I'm just gonna, give it to them. And they wrecked my shit because I was not paying attention to the fact that what I needed to do. I mean, when you start thinking about up leveling your way of thinking and living by, say, the Hermetic principles, the first principle is the universe is mental. It's mental. So if you're going to be focusing in on the shit you don't like, and then you're not working out that within yourself, then whatever you're not working out, that's the exact projection that you are experiencing outside. And that was so hard for me to really, really, really hone in on. And I was doing the shadow work. I worked with a Jungian analyst for 10 years straight. I was raising children. I was, doing all the things, but it was so compartmentalized. And when I woke up to it and what I was doing, I realized, oh no, I cannot. The separation that I'm doing is what's keeping the divide and conquer alive
Yeah.
in me.
Yeah.
And that shadow work, it's like it took on another level. And I took on my
Hmm.
journals, which I'd saved, and I burned them.
Oh.
I just fucking burned them as a sort of ritual to free my ancestors, free myself, and the notions that I was ruminating again and again and again, which is why I think that a lot of psychotherapy that is within the matrix shitstems is really not helping people, because it's not excavating anything. It's just reactivating everything. And it's not shadow work necessarily. And so, the work that you're doing it's really, I think, critical at this time. And I wish a lot more
Absolutely.
truthers would hop on board instead of creating these ways of just going on and on and on with the rage, with no solutions, and not looking within your own divide and conquer of,
Yeah, absolutely. This is you've kind of put it in better words than I did. But yeah, you're right, because it's the anger that's part of the problem, and also that they are being used as tools. It's like, okay, so
yes,
are you a flat earther? Are you a globe turd? Or there's all these kind of, and also within this community, there's also like a lot of backbiting between
yes,
speakers,
yes,
and we look up to these speakers. We want, I would like for them all to, play nicely,
yes,
if possible.
yeah,
And and it kind of almost feels like some of them want to sort of want you to be on their side, or someone else's
yes,
side, or And for most people who are looking at this objectively and who are interested in this kind of information, they're all producing something that's really useful for everyone. So that can also kind of put a lot of pressure on people.
Yes.
But I think actually what I struggle with myself is perhaps a bit of kind of guilt, maybe about maybe thinking maybe I should be doing something more, because yeah, I mean, it's something that I need to think about possibly. I see there's another shadow.
Yeah, no, I hear you. And for me, the over identification with, in Michael Tsarion's work, the good dragon mother. I have such an obsession with that because of my own traumatic
Wow.
upbringing by this man-hating psychopath who,
Oh.
for all intents and purposes, I mean, one of the things that she did that really woke me up to the fact that this is not a good person was she bragged at a lunch with, I took her lunch and some of her coworkers. She was a big deal in a medical hospital, in a hospital. And she bragged about how the only reason why I was still alive was because my nanny had caught her trying to suffocate me with a pillow.
What?
And we were just sitting there in this Japanese restaurant. I mean, this is decades ago. And I'm thinking, holy fuck. Like, and her friends they're just stunned. And they're all holding my hand,
Okay.
and,
Wow.
my mom is holding court. I mean, so this is, I think, I think it's illustrative of the sort of malignant, and sort of mindset that a lot of people have in the matrix who have not done the shadow work, who don't want to do it, who are in so much pain, and yet the only way they can deal with their pain is by inflicting more pain and suffering.
Yeah.
And feeling justified by doing, that sort of wokeism of that hive mind where you can be part of some totalitarian shit show and destroy and murder people, but say you didn't do it, but you are part of that group. And I think, that sort of collectivism is a lot of the problem. People are just they're very relaxed, or they're very, that default of belonging to some group.
But then are we part of a group though? Because are we creating a group as well? And like within any sort of group, it always kind of gets a bit sticky, doesn't it?
Yes, I've thought about that, which is why, in fact, I just did a video about the sort of sycophants of group mind, think, feel, do, speak, where we just people have to be careful of jumping on a bandwagon of a particular group led by a particular person who everybody greatly admires. I mean, I find this, but then on a post, I'm seeing this horrific stuff of, people who had chosen to get the Vox, and these people wishing these people ill. Like, I'm just like, I'm cringing. I'm going, what the hell? Why are you wishing people death and destruction? That just, it's just, every fiber of my being is repulsed by that. And then it's got 1 million likes, it's like, wow. More divide and conquer.
I know. One thing I said, because I've got a group of friends who are not interested in any of my work at all. These are people that I've known since I was 10, and so they're not interested in my work. But we've been friends for such a long time, and they're all vaxxed, apart from one. And I said at the very beginning with this pandemic, I said, I know I can see what's going to be playing out here. I'm not going to lose touch with my friends. I'm going to keep them. Obviously, there are things that we don't talk about, I guess, but they're still important to me, and I think it's a sign of our connection to our feminine, actually, that we have compassion for our fellow, you know, humans. And I think that we should keep that, because that is what makes us
I
what makes
agree.
us special, and keep you know, it's a prominent part of being a woman, especially. But I think also
Hmm.
men should also have that compassion too, because, you know, the wall has been pulled over their eyes. I was the same. The wall was pulled over my eyes until I was, I think, 35. I never
Hmm.
read a book. I was not interested in anything apart from my holidays and working, and not much else, and what car I was driving and going out the weekends, you know,
Hmm.
until I was 35, 36. That well, maybe a bit younger than that. But I didn't read. The only book I ever read was a bloody novel on the beach, you know, like a shit novel about love and romance and rubbish. And so I was that person. But there was always something in me that kind of, that I was suppressing, and
Hmm.
that was when the shadow came out.
Wow.
And so, you know, I know I'm not the only one. Out of my friend group, of my, you know, my friends from when I was a child, one of them recently passed away, who was jabbed, left
Hmm.
3 children. One of them has woken up, you know, and she is also
Yeah.
jabbed, but she has woken up.
Yeah.
So, and now she's sending me stuff about New World Order. I'm like, I looked at that many years ago.
I know.
But
I'm
it's
having
so
the
nice
same
to see.
experiences.
Oh,
And
right.
tell us about tell us about that moment of, it's like, yikes, I'm alive. I know that was my whole thing, is like, whoa, whoa.
Well, I've kind of spoken about it a few times.
Mhm.
Whoever's kind of watched me, they might be bored to hear it. But I had an awakening in 2012. Something happened at home. I said, I the voice of God. It was in me. It just said, I need to heal myself, and I didn't know what I was doing. I started to do lots of new age things like meditation, creative visualization. Started getting a feeling in my hands, and I thought, well, I'm very, very special. I always knew I was. And I did Reiki. And then that night, I shot out of bed like a bat out of hell, and I had this fire burning from my feet to the top of my head.
Ooh.
And I couldn't turn it off. And so I had this Kundalini rising. I had this kind of, this feeling in my back, this kind of snake feeling. It was like the veil of reality had been lifted. I was very, very super psychic for about a year and a half. And it was really intrusive. My older daughter at the time was 3, and it was tricky. It was a really tricky time.
Wow.
I saw things in the sky. I saw stuff. I saw realities on top of this one, on top of this one, on top of this one. I could feel people. I knew stuff before I got speaking to them. I could feel everything. I could communicate with animals. I could do, all this, and at first it felt okay. No, it didn't feel okay. It felt, I was playing around with it. And then it started to feel really intrusive. And I got in contact with a few people at the time, and I was living in Tipperary in Ireland, and they helped me to kind of stabilize these energies. And I haven't been psychic like that for since then, really.
Mhm, mhm.
Although I say that my intuition is really coming back a lot, and I'm able to do more stuff in my dreams. But I guess in terms of waking up to the world being not quite what I grew up thinking, that was in 2010, 2011, 29, yeah, 2010, when I started to research about the World Trade Center, and I started to
Mhm.
really look into that, and that was obvious to me that it wasn't what it seemed. My mum is also a big truther. She was my first kind of truther, I guess, and she was a big influence on me. Not initially, and initially I just thought, oh, she's just crazy. And it was later when I started realizing that what she was showing me for many years was true, or at least kind of gave me food for thought. So I can't really say when I actually really properly woke up, but it could have been that time when the veil of reality was lifted, and I saw that everything was different to really what
Mhm,
I had
mhm.
previously known.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, and I guess
Like the shackles come off.
the
And
shackles come off. Yeah.
that Kundalini energy, it's
Uh-huh.
like, um, my experience of it's like your true nature uncontained,
Hmm.
and it just goes.
It's like, it's the scary thing is it's like the mask kind of comes off, doesn't it? The
Hmm.
mask is gone,
Yeah.
and it's like, oh fuck, shit, what am I
Yeah.
gonna
And you
do?
don't know what the fuck is going on. You know, I didn't know
No.
what the fuck was going on. I thought I was dying or
Everyone thinks
it
that they're
was,
going
yeah.
crazy, and most people think that they're going crazy. Like I've had people come to me, in the tarot, for tarot, and they're like, "Please help me." I think I'm going crazy. This is what they think, but once they give me the symptoms, I know exactly what it is, and it's just a matter of them kind of grounding themselves and using that energy in a positive way, and finding ways to kind of work with their own chakras and their auras and all that sort of
Hmm.
stuff. So
Hmm.
it is about really, it's like the unseen world has seen you, it's seen you, and you've seen it.
Yes.
And so that there's no going back.
No,
That's
there is
it.
no going back.
That's
Can't
it.
hit
It's changed.
snooze. Can't do
Huh?
the snooze button, and you can't try to go back. Try to go back into whatever. Yeah, you can't fall asleep again.
No, and you can't. You said about snooze. You can't sleep either. You wake up
Yeah.
at 3 o'clock every morning, and also you can keep going. You can keep going on like 3 hours sleep all day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a very strange experience. Yeah, it's not the nicest, but it's part of it's like an initiation, I guess. And I do feel like at the moment we're at a time when we are the elders in training. We didn't have them before us.
Mhm.
All of our elders were not in the same position. The reason I think we're in this position now is because we have had access to so much information that we've been able to access things like the Hermetic principles and kind of share information about Helen Blavatsky. I never heard of her before we had the internet. So, and then also kind of linking in with like-minded people. It's changed everything.
Mhm.
And you also have to wonder, is AI also responsible in some way for the very small kind of hive minds that are happening
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
small groups within us?
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, interesting times. But I mean, the thing is, I mean, it's for some people it's scary. It can be scary initially when you first have your awakening, but I mean, ultimately this is just a short ride. This is what I'm really understanding. I'm kind of getting this in
Yeah.
very small downloads every now and again. We're only here for a short time, and when I think back to my life, it's not quite as I wanted it to be, and I can bitch and moan about it, but actually I wouldn't have it any other way. It is me, it's my imprint,
Yes.
it's exactly all the mistakes that I made
Mhm.
were
Yeah.
bound to happen.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
the
They were all
bad
teaching modules,
choices.
so to speak, to
Absolutely, they
get to
are.
it. Yeah, I've been thinking about that, because here in America, you reach a certain age and then there's Medicare, right? I'm not part of the shitstorm. And I all of a
Mhm.
sudden am getting bombarded because I'm of that age and I'm thinking, fuck, how much time do I have? I'm going to be 80 in 15 years. It's
Wow.
it's so, and it's mind boggling. And I'm thinking, I got to get on this. I got to get on this even more, the work, and I'm even more committed to all the things that I'm up to and
Hmm.
obsessing about that are important to me, because I have a deep concern for
Hmm.
humanity's progress and
Hmm.
humanity's evolution,
Uh-huh.
and really uh, uh, enslaving
Hmm.
humanity and contributing what I can. So for myself, it's really connecting with your work, connecting with Michael's work, connecting with all these beautiful people that are taking their suffering, taking
Hmm.
their process of shadow work and uncovering, unmasking all of that stuff, and sharing all these different gifts, because
Hmm.
that is what it's going to take, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's about using your suffering to move higher. And also I think that we choose the life that we have. I think that we choose the difficulties that we have. And I also think that when we progress on this plane, I think that we evolve spiritually as well. I think that there is some kind of degree of movement up into, I don't know, I daren't say ascension because it sounds too
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
new agey, but I do think it's something similar to that. I think that once we're able to kind of meet our obstacles in this lifetime and maybe make an impact in some way, that there is some kind of soul's evolution that happens as well. And this is what I'm thinking, like this life is just like it's like a dream. It's a very, very short dream, and then you die and then you go home. Because I've been watching this podcast by this guy called Jeff Mara, and he deals with people who have had near-death experiences, and they all say very, very similar things in different ways. That the similar thing that they say is that none of them want to come back. There are even people who die that have young children, mothers who have young children. They didn't want to come back. When they die, they expand out of their body. They're huge, and when they have to come back in, it's painful and it hurts, and they come back and they're very tiny. When they're up there, they can create by, just by thinking. They create and they're there. And then they have various different experiences with what they can only create, call the creator or God or something like this. And they're all kind of told that they have to, that they have some kind of life review, or that they see their life flash past them very, very quickly, and that time is linear. It's kind of like, all these things. I guess we've seen them all. Or heard about them. But I'm finding also that at the moment, even everything to do with like healing, so it's a slightly different topic now, but everything to do with healing is like cliche. It's nothing new,
Yes.
It's just about kind of putting all of this information together and creating the space. In the same way that when I'm just talking about like these near-death experiences, this is nothing new to you. I'm sure you've heard all this stuff before, but it's just when you put it all together, there's like a different understanding.
Yes. Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm doing. That's kind of what I'm doing at the moment. I'm just taking little bits. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. This makes sense. Stick it all together and pretend it's mine.
I love it. And it all comes back around. I worked with Michael Tsarion decades ago when we were
Did
both
you?
in Silicon Valley in California in the 90s. And so this was pre-Terrascope.
Oh,
And
wow.
I
Long
had
time.
just done a deep dive where I was traveling to Eastern Europe and to Southeast Asia and visiting rape camps. And yes, so I was coming back and having these readings with him, trying to figure out, why am I having these experiences? And I'm telling you, if it wasn't for him, I think I would have lost my mind between his work and my work with Pearl, my union analyst. I mean, it gave me a context of not just the shadow work, but the archetypal realms, not just the imaginal realms, but also the actual physical realms that were mirroring the polarities of all these imaginal realms and the archetypes that I was experiencing throughout my travels. I mean, it was bizarre, so bizarre. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to do this work, but it was, you come to a point, and I'm sure you experience this, where you have no choice. This is the work that you're supposed to do. And that's what actually inspired me, Pearl and Michael, to create these programs of unraveling the trauma deactivation, the trauma de-armoring. And I ended up funding a lot of the stuff with my own money and going into these communities all over the world and offering, for a very brief amount of time, working with people and training people to do this work in their communities. Because, I was seeing so many of my friends and colleagues that were catering to the sort of bougie, upper class, new age relationship workshop junkies who didn't think twice about spending $10,000 on, like, a weekend program or a 7-day retreat in, say, Bali at an expensive place. I mean, I was just like going, these are not my people. My people are the ones that have marks on their heads, or are homeless, or are in these relationships where they are where they are imprisoned in many, many ways, mental shackles, it doesn't matter. And so to be inspired to go to those places, I think is really maybe it, and it's probably my own trip, but I'm meeting more and more people who are really committed to making the work available as much as possible.
I think that's incredible. What to put yourself out there like that, and at your own cost as well. I mean, that's something that's a really wonderful thing that you did there. I think that's brilliant. It's amazing.
It was dumb. My friends were telling me how dumb I was. Poor businesswoman. I mean, the whole 9 yards, like giving it away. And it's like, well, it's my life.
Well, I mean, more lately, I've been thinking to myself that wouldn't it be great to actually leave a legacy like that, and that's what you've done there. You know, if there was a way that we could maybe all perhaps even work together and create something of, I don't know. I mean, this is how cults start, isn't it, really?
Yes.
but something to sort of encapsulate, and maybe even just our programs that will do it, and there's probably similarities and crossovers in our workshops, I guess, and our courses and programs. But I guess if there was some kind of way that I guess even just maybe the shadow work, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But if yeah, it would be great to leave a legacy, to actually leave something that that can help people in the future, you know, when we're not here,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
when we're gone.
Yeah.
Because and perhaps that'll be maybe the start of you know, the rise of people to really kind of own themselves and to build autonomy. I mean, I guess you see it yourself, like there's so many adults, they're like they're children in adult bodies. They haven't developed their autonomy in any way. They're very much cling to victimhood, even if they're not victims. And
Yes.
and then you have, you know, I guess when I'm thinking about society at the moment, we have a lot of men who are not connected to their masculine. We have a lot of women who are not connected to their feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows how to have a relationship. They don't know what the dynamics should be.
Yeah.
You know, we don't know how to tap into our intuition anymore. It goes on and on and on. And to some degree, it is like, it's cliche. It's all cliche stuff. It's all like stuff you've heard before. But put it together and it makes sense, and it
Mm-hmm.
works. Yeah, I just think that the way that I try to create my work, you know, my work is to make it as simple as possible, but also using some Jungian concepts as well, which is kind of a bit of a hard thing to do, because he was, you know, if you've ever read any Jung, you probably have, I'm sure. It's you need to really concentrate. And most
It's
people
not
don't
an
know how.
easy read. It is not
No.
a casual read. I know that when I first started working with Pearl in the 80s,
Yeah.
I was going through a hard time, and she had me read a number of books and a number of Alice Miller books. And I just
Mm.
remember just reading this stuff, you know, and I've got the kids in the background, and I'm just like going, fuck, and throwing it across the room, because I'm thinking, how am I going to get through this? Because I could feel it already triggering some there was something
Mhm.
that was stirring, and it was very uncomfortable. I didn't want to read that stuff because it resonated so well. You know, Drama of the Gifted Child, like that book. I've read it so many times. And the first read, I think I probably sobbed through the whole thing, you know,
Mm.
because it was so apparent to me that, wow, 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 the harm that I experienced, and the relationship between that harm and thinking, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, how did
Mhm.
I cause this? How did I make her do these things? And it's so critical. And that work throughout the decades, it's critical. It's even more critical now than I think it was then.
Yeah, I mean, Alice Miller's books are something else, and I guess what was happening for you at that time is that you were recognizing perhaps your emotions were coming up, or all of your kind of suppressed stuff. I guess your shadow
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
showing itself,
Yeah.
and that's the painful part,
Yes.
when especially when you find something that you really don't want to look into, that's really painful for you. For me, that there's this woman. She's a great woman. She's a French woman, and she's a psychologist, and she talks about cheating in relationships, and this is something that's a real trigger for me, and it has been a trigger for me lately. Yeah.
Mhm.
But this woman, she I couldn't even listen to her. I couldn't listen to her at all. And so lately I've been trying to make myself listen to her, and she makes so much sense. And it's about really understanding what goes on when somebody cheats. And it's a variety of different things. Apparently it's not that the person wants to get away from their spouse or their partner, it's that they want to somehow uh find something that's exciting within themselves. They want to
Mhm.
find a part of themselves that's exciting again.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
still find it absolutely abhorrent.
Yeah, I think that might make
I
me
don't
mad
accept
because
it.
that has been a sort of thread throughout my life in all my
Uh,
relationships is like, how do I not know that? So yeah, I think that might make me mad. But I will ask you for that link.
uh-huh.
That's nice.
Yeah. She's a great woman, and she her information is brilliant. I think she's a trained psychologist. But I think that for me, and I probably for most women, it's the most hideous thing that can ever happen, I think, to a woman,
Yeah.
probably to a man as well. It's the most painful thing, and I think maybe, is it also to do with the father, and not just, I know it's to do with the father, but does it maybe affect more the women who perhaps didn't have that strong father figure in their life, and then
Mhm.
that's why it's so absolutely cutting and
Yes.
hurtful, more
Yeah.
hurtful perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe, but maybe not. I guess, I mean, one thing that I do know is that somehow our childhoods replay in our adult life.
Mhm.
I say that, I said this to some of my clients recently, that we in the same way that children play, they copy what they see at home, and they start to kind of copy that kind of play. They play house, they play kitchen, and mummy and daddy, whatever. Well, we do that in real life. That's our real life, and we tend to mirror the images that we saw as children.
Yes.
And we play a character that we may have seen. Like, so if mummy was the victim, was the play the victim. If mummy was the, oh, I'll do anything to get along, we'll end up doing the same thing. And it's really horrible to see, and it's so obvious, and it happens all the time. And it's a great kick up the arse as well, because it's
Really
saying,
is.
you don't know what your shadow is yet. You still haven't recognized the signs. You still haven't realized that your boundaries are all shit, because this is what you've seen when you were
Yeah.
younger.
Yeah.
So your relationships are always going to show you your shadow.
Yeah.
And if you've chosen someone who doesn't want to play ball with you, and doesn't want to kind of who won't be there for your feelings, especially for a woman, if the man is not going to be the container for the yin and energy and the chaos that she brings, especially once a month, he's not going to be there for that. He's not going to be there for much. And so these are all the lessons. And I think I can only really understand all of this stuff is because I'm so old, because I've made so many mistakes in my life.
Yeah.
Really,
I,
that's
I can
why.
relate to that.
Hmm.
It's funny because you talk about the projections that people have on you. Like I've had a lot of these projections about, oh, your life must have been somehow easy. And I'm like,
Who said that?
you have no
Wow.
idea. I have a lot of, and mostly women
Uh,
projecting that on me for
hmm.
whatever reason, which is really, it's kind of weird for me. But I also think that, yeah, well, I'm here to dispel that illusion
Hmm.
because, the truth is, and it's true for all of us to varying degrees, that we've all lived some sort of major shit show.
Yeah, everyone. I don't know anyone who hasn't. I don't know anyone who hasn't. Yeah. I mean, occasionally, I'll tell you this though, occasionally I do get people sometimes coming in for tarot, and I can see that they've come here for a good time. You know, that there are some people that just they're completely not awake. Absolutely not.
Wow.
You know, they can, you know, and they've come here for a good time, and you know, the problems that they have are sometimes not really problems in the grand scheme of things. I actually think that I think Michael Tsarion spoke about this, like the outsider. I don't know if that's his term, but like the person who kind of who may have a creative spark, who is always on the outside of a group, probably in school as well, who sees things differently, who nobody really understands. For me, I was all of those things, but I hid it so well. I wore the mask. I put a mask on at 16. I said, I'm gonna be normal from now on, and I was never normal.
Yeah,
Thank
I was
God. Thank God.
definitely that outsider, you know, just getting kicked out of schools, getting just you in the hallway by yourself, you know, because whatever, you know. And maybe that was a lot of the autism meeting the complex PTSD, whatever. But it's like it was ingrained in me where I can't, the brutal frankness, and I still to this day, you know, a lot of people who are close to me, they're like, wow, you just still don't get it. You just can't say that. You can't say it like that. And I don't know, in a way, it's going to feel like a lie. You know, people tell me, you should think about things before you speak. And for me, that I'm not capable of doing that. That kind of it feels like I'm formulating a lie, if that makes sense. It's like, I don't relate. And so it's that being the equal opportunity offender, or the sort of really awkward, socially inept, you know, like, don't invite her. Do not invite her.
I sometimes say social retard. I'm socially retarded.
I can relate.
Do you know, to be honest, I can do small talk for a short time, and then I tend to just kind of get really knee deep into the good stuff. And some people find it. Do you know, I find this is what I found. Before I accepted myself, I would be cautious of how other people, or worried about how other people would receive me. And the older I've got, the more I've accepted myself, the less I care. And so then when I am really, you know, I just say whatever, or I say something that's, you know, quite kind of unusual, it sparks interest now. It doesn't elicit the same response. It doesn't elicit the negative response. It's met with more interest.
Yes. It's that self-acceptance from within, so without.
Exactly. This is it. But you know, I wonder if you want to talk about this for a minute, you know, with everything that's happening in the world. This is something completely different. Maybe I've got ADHD too, who knows? But with everything that's happening in the world at the moment, with the shit show that we currently have, and also this idea about the collective unconscious, I think, or I'm subject to change with this idea, but I think that it's not just a projection of our unconscious. You know, like they say that you know, because the world is such a shit show, it means that we all are, you know, we've all got the shit show within us. And I think that it's true to some degree, but I also think that we are having some outside interference. I don't think it's all just projection. I think that most people, if they have a soul, are loving. If you see any baby, you know, most babies and toddlers and, you know, young children are loving and caring and kind. If they feel safe and nurtured and loved, that is their natural state. And then when they are left, or their needs are not met, and all these kind of things happen, or they're abused in any kind of way, they become fearful, and then the shadow comes out, and then you know, these more negative traits come out because because those feelings are being suppressed and they've been violated in some way.
Mhm.
You know, their love has been violated. That's another new way to kind of think about it. And so what do you think about that? This idea of outside interference?
I agree with that. I agree
Mhm.
with that. And I think that it can manifest exactly as you said. And for my own experience, I was an escape artist where I dove into the imaginal realms. And I imagined myself to be a fairy, not one of those really pretty ones, but a pretty one and fierce, like don't mess with me kind of thing. And I think that was part of perhaps a lot of the shadowy projections of my mother onto me that I sort of embodied, where I had this split in my little imaginal fairy self, that I could be the very, very pretty and gossamer winged little fairy, and I could be this fierce little bitch that if you threaten me, I will fuck with your world. So
Maria, I'm getting that. I'm feeling that, to be fair.
yeah. And so I've had that, where I've navigated these things, and I allowed myself to be able to, like, I was in martial arts as a 4-year-old. And it was one of my mother's ways of, I think, controlling my energy, because I had so much energy. Like, we'll put her in dance class, we'll put her in music classes, put her in martial arts so she can get her little yayas out. And so I got a black belt very, very young and could defend myself. And I'm very small, relatively small, very, very petite person. And so to learn how to defend myself, but I would never in a million years actually be violent with anybody or anything. So it got played out in the imaginal realms, imagining myself to be this fierce warrior fairy. So I had it inside me. It was definitely internalized. And
You have got fairy warrior energy, to be fair. You do have that. It could be past life. When I did my past life regression, I had this very strange experience, and I wasn't too sure if it was real or not, because it just seemed a bit weird. But it was that I was a fairy, although I don't feel like fairy-like. I feel what I feel. But I was a fairy, but not really a pretty fairy. But I had the ears, and I had the very, kind of very small sort of chin, that sort of look. But I was big, and I was picking up little humans and eating them with my friend. And we lived in a tree. And then it came to the day that we died. I died. My friend was with me when I died. And yeah, I just thought afterwards, that just sounds like a load of shit, to be fair. I don't know if any of that was true. But
sounds
yeah,
really cool.
Sounds cool. Yeah, it does sound cool. And it was the year 12. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Anyway, who knows? It could just be, it just could just be imagination. Who knows about that?
Yeah.
So we were going to talk about the animus and the
Yeah,
anima. We're speaking about everything but.
well, and I'm looking at the time, and I know it's very late where you are. And
yeah, it's 10 past 10. I could do another 20 minutes or so if you can go another 20 minutes. Yeah,
let's go another 20 minutes, and definitely I'm gonna have you on again, because this is so, it's so enriching for me, and so like really very, very inspiring, because I know for myself, I'm in the later years of my life, and I'm thinking, you know, I have been carrying a torch for decades. I'm going into, I mean, it's almost 40 years that I've been at this. And it's like, how much more, how much more, how much more? And so when I feel inspired by young people, I'm just like, it's so exciting, because I feel like I'm just having a conversation with myself quite a lot of times, and there's just so much, I think there's so much confusion because of New Age bullshit, and because of the hijacking, I think, of a lot of mental health, which is really, really unfortunate, because so many people are suffering, whether they're institutionalized and abused in institutions, or whether they're institutionalized in these really fucked up toxic relationships, or in these really toxic family systems or business systems where they cannot get out of it because they don't realize they have a choice to get out of it or to think a different way.
I think that we are in very sort of toxic times really at the moment. And I think that, you know, everyone's kind of talking about this kind of awakening. And I'm not sure if it really is an awakening or what, but maybe it is. But that we seem to have like this new sort of variant of toxicity at the moment, don't we? Especially with narcissism seems to be like, I mean, I'm scared of using the word. Because there's so much connotation with it, and because it's such a buzzword.
Yes.
And because it feels like I'm kind of jumping on the bandwagon. But when you look at all of the traits of a narcissist, there are so many people that I've been in contact with who have all of those, and some of them we all have some to a certain degree. But to actually be in a relationship with someone who is high in narcissistic traits, can send you over the edge. Doesn't matter how. Does not matter how strong you are. The level of emotional abuse that happens. And I read the book a few times. This is a brilliant book called Narcissism: The Denial of the True Self by Alexander Lowen. It's a brilliant book, and really what it says is that basically that the child was not loved properly, their needs were not met, and so they were abused in some way, and so they had to create within themselves a false sense of reality, a false sense of identity, a mask, a splitting of the outer world, of the inner world first and then the outer world. And it's actually very, very sad what happens. But to actually be in a relationship face to face with someone like that, and if you're doing your shadow work as well and you're very introspective, it can really fuck you up, because it's like you're constantly questioning yourself. And these people are generally very, I'm just going off in a different subject here, but they're usually very, very charming. They're extremely charming. They have a lot of sexual energy. So they're very, very attractive. And then when you kind of get into their world, you kind of have to accept their false reality to some degree. And that alone is the start of your demise.
That was my mother. And she was actually diagnosed. She was diagnosed many years later, manic depressive, and very like the psychosis. She was not a nice person, very charming, very, very beautiful. Like I used to stare at her and go, my mommy's so pretty, you know, and her slamming the door in my face, you know, like, mommy, why won't you love me? And me going after her, and her just leave me alone. And that sort of deep rejection, you know. So I can relate to that. You know, it just was perplexing how she was able to like manipulate not just me, but manipulate everybody around her. And so there was a combination of like being fascinated by her and being absolutely terrified.
Wow.
You know, because she could turn on a like go from 0 to light speed in less than a nanosecond. You know?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's I guess that kind of takes us back again to Michael Tsarion's work on the Dragon Mother, which is something that I'm going to be reading that book again. Actually, I've got my program starting, and then I'm going to read it again. And there's another lady that is going to read it with me, and maybe actually you might read it too, not with me, but around the same time. And then perhaps we could even do. We can chat about it, and we can talk about it, and from a woman's perspective. Because
I would love that. I would love that
too, because there's so much in there which is quite frightful. It's quite scary. You know, as a woman to read it, it was quite affronting. It was a bit like, oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's a lot of truth in there, and there's a lot to understand about the female psychology. And I mean, and it just goes to show, I mean, there are so many wonderful quotes in there, and some of them by Otto Rank and Lowen and lots of different
Yes.
people.
Brilliant works of these men. And
Mm,
it's funny because when I read Dragon Month, I realized, my God, he's on it again, again, and
mhm.
again, because I know that over the decades, I've talked about the malignant mother and the feminists that have come after me over, say, the last 30 years. I mean, it's a little crazy. I mean, they're all ready
Mm,
to lynch me that I am a misogynist, I'm a patriarchy apologist, and on and on and on and on. And
mhm.
it's not true. There's there's a deeper, darker rabbit hole to go down in to
Well,
trace
the,
back.
the problem with those kind of people, you just don't have to even listen
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah, you can't.
There's for some people who you will never, they're not there to learn. They're
Yeah,
just there
yeah,
to argue,
yeah.
because they're under the spell of the victim, whatever
Yes.
victim umbrella they're under, which is you're a misogynist and I'm a feminist. Well,
Yes,
a lot of these
exactly.
feminists would actually accept a man who's dressed as a woman to say that he's a woman.
It's
So,
bizarre. It's bizarre. I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I mean, I would stay up late into the wee hours of the morning, tripping out on that shit, going, how do you hate men? I'm sorry, you birthed a baby. How do you do it? How do you justify your hatred?
it comes from self-hate.
Yes.
It's all self-hate. Because if you hate men, you hate your father, who is part of you, because they are internal, and we
Mhm.
carry our mother and our father inside of us.
Yes. Yeah.
And there, I guess you could call them introjects. That as babies, our parents are our gods,
Yes.
and however they are with us, that becomes our internal voice as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And this is why it's so important to do this kind of work, because society's in such a mess, because
Mhm.
we're going down some really, really dark roads potentially.
Yeah.
And if we can kind of stop and just kind of take a hold of ourselves and reclaim ourselves and our mind, and use and have some critical thought, in a
Yeah.
way, it's like you don't even have to, it doesn't have to bother you what's going on out there
Yeah.
anymore. It doesn't
Yeah.
have to
Because
bother
you
you.
have to actually take your energy, your focus
Yeah,
away from
that's it.
that and return it. So a lot of the work that I do with clients and particularly my survivors is the in utero work, the prenatal work
Oh,
in
really?
mother's
Yeah.
womb, because
Wow.
there we're not only just getting the sustenance from her body and what she's eating, but we're also absorbing all of her shit, her shadow, all the stuff she's into. If she's in a fucked up relationship and you're absorbing all that, her thoughts, her mechanisms, her
Hmm.
all her stuff. And I know that has been a sore point, so many, I'm so offended by you. It's like, and I have these people coming after me all the time. And it's like, it, I don't know what to say. I don't
How
defend
how do how do
myself.
you do how do you deal with it? I mean, does it upset you, or are you okay, or are
I
you just
used to get very, very butthurt, but so, I had a YouTube channel, my initial
Mm,
YouTube channel, like 9 years. And then in 2015, that was it. They just sweep you
big
away. They delete you, deplatform you, on and on and on.
okay.
And I
Yeah.
did a lot of stuff. Uh,
Uh-huh.
like I did a lot of stuff on relationships, the malignant mother, all of the prenatal stuff, a lot of stuff with my clients who are like willing to be on
Hmm.
on video quite
Hmm.
often in disguise. And so we talked a lot about that. I talked to a lot of pickup artists about the relationships between them. And I mean, some of it was like I couldn't believe a lot of the stuff that people were saying to me. It's like, wow, this is a lack of shadow work right here, and I would just come out with it. So a lot
Hmm.
of it was very not adversarial, but more just, okay, come on, you're saying a
Mm,
lot of hateful things about humanity, about men. I want to hear about this, about women. I want to hear what you're really talking about. And a lot of it was avoidance of what was going on internally. So once again, shadow work, shadow work, shadow.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That's the good stuff. That's what we all need, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what the world needs.
Yeah. So I'm excited about your programs. And we will have all of your information in the show notes below, because I think your approach to shadow work, you can say it's experimental, but I'm on it. I like
I'm a perfectionist. I wouldn't have put out anything unless I felt that it was going to actually make a difference, and I'm sure it's going to make a difference. And I'm excited about it. I'm excited to help these people to let go of their trauma and their negative ideas about themselves, and to understand what is unconsciously motivating their actions, thoughts, perceptions, and behavior and their life experiences, because the shadow is doing all of that.
Yeah.
And it's just time for the truth. It's time now. To have as many people standing in their power as possible, because once they do that, and especially if they're kind of interested in alternative information or truth information, that's going to be the next generation, because I'm not that many years behind you. I was very, you were excited to hear that me being so young. I'm not, I'm 47. I'm kind of, we're 50 in a couple of years' time. So we need new people as well. We need more and more people who are going to be interested in this. So let's do it.
Yes. Let's do it. So any parting words? I so appreciate
any parting words of wisdom. My parting words of wisdom, I think I've already said it, is that we're only here for a short time. This is just a blip. This is just a dream. And I think once, I think that there are some philosophers who said, once you've contemplated on your own death, you will start living. And I think that there are a lot of people out there who went along to get along, and they may have had children, they may have got married, they may have got the job they wanted, they may have had the career, and then they just sit there going, what is this? This isn't, and they have to then start doing the work. And it's usually when people are on their arse, when people they've had a loss, they've had some kind of midlife crisis, existential crisis, or they've realized that there's no love in their relationship, or something that's happened that just shakes them. Or they become depressed. And Carl Jung says that when depression hits, he says, good, I'm glad, because that's the start. That's where it all starts. That's not the end. That's the start. And also, I'll also say this as well. Most people don't want to suffer, but there is such a thing as legitimate suffering. And it's important. It's important not to go too deep and to stay there for too long. It's important to relinquish the chains of being a victim, but it's also important to use your suffering and to understand the message within it, because there's always a message. And so to listen to that and to sit with it and to feel it and to express it in whatever way, creatively, or to cry, or to use some of who is it, Alexander Lowen or someone else. There are ways that you can express. There are kind of ways that you can arch your body on your bed and you can scream and shout, or even
all that somatic work is important.
Somatic work. I'll just say one last thing as well. A safe place to scream. Everyone needs a safe place to scream, and I found it. It's in your car when you're driving.
Yes.
Yeah, but
highly recommend.
Make sure you're alone, because it could be a bit uncomfortable for her.
Yes, yes. And bring some Palo Santo to deflunk your car.
Okay, now, yeah,
little spritzies. That's what I do. But yeah, it's powerful stuff. You might get hoarse, but you will notice
it's going to hurt.
Voice, yes,
yeah,
your voice will actually change in its resonance. It'll be more clear, more powerful, more embodied. So yes. Thank you, love. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Lovely to talk to you.
Yes, lovely to talk to you. All right, my loves, that is it for today. And so until next time, my loves, here's to love, truth, and beauty. Mwah! Ciao, Bellas.
Thank you.